So here we go. Welcome one more time to the new user webinar, part 1, learning the basics of assessments for illustrative math teachers. My name is Dawn Peterson, and I'm the Director of Content and Partnerships at ASSISTments. Just a little webinar etiquette before we get started. I think everyone is probably welcoming a school year where you're not on Zoom with your students, but for the session tonight, please leave your microphone on mute. Please choose to have your video on or off, whatever you're comfortable with. And lastly, use the chat throughout the entire presentation. Let us know if you have any questions, any wonderings. If our chat moderators don't get to your question right away, just note that it may be because we're going to be addressing that question later in the webinar. Just a note, as we are warming up, that this session will have some interactive elements to it. So if you already have an ASSISTments account, please go to assistments.org and sign up, or you can easily create your account if you are a teacher who uses G Suite. If you don't have the ability to set up your account now, no worries. If you're a Canvas teacher or you just don't have that information ready, my chat moderator, Carrie, is going to share in the chat a sample teacher login that you can use. And I'll walk you through the sign-in process, but this is just something to copy and paste in the chat and just have it ready for when we're ready to get started. All right, our goal for our hour and 15-minute session today is that you, our participants, will learn the basics of getting started using Google Classroom or Canvas. Just a note at this point that you do need to have an integration with Google Classroom or Canvas in order to use ASSISTments. So if you're not using one of those LMS at this time, unfortunately, you are not able to use ASSISTments. We're looking at adding some additional functionality for other LMS in the future, but that's our situation right now. During tonight's session, we're going to cover an overview of ASSISTments for those who are brand new to the platform. I'll walk you through how to create an account, and then we'll go through our 3 of our 4-step process. Step 1 is how to actually create an assignment to deliver to your students. I'll walk you through and demo what the student experience looks like so you can see what kind of feedback students are going to experience. Step 3 is assessing class performance, where you'll get a taste of our data reports. But as you may have noticed, we do have a second part of this session, all dedicated to data. And then lastly, we'll talk about setting students up for success, give you some recommendations on how to get started with IM in your classroom, along with ASSISTments, and just tips in general for using ASSISTments with your students. So real quick introduction. Again, my name is Dawn. I'm Director of Content and Partnerships. I was an 8th grade math teacher for 14 years here in Massachusetts, and I used ASSISTments with my students for 10 of those years. I would never go back if I was in the classroom, so I am one of the best cheerleaders there is for ASSISTments, and so happy to share that with you today. And my chat moderator, Carrie, is going to do a real brief introduction. She's having trouble with her audio today. So Carrie, you want to unmute and give it a go?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Carrie Moy. I'm not 100% sure in and out, but I am also a cheerleader for ASSISTments. I used it in my classroom as well. I was a teacher for over 12 years in middle.
Oh, Carrie, I'm going to cut you off there because you're cutting out. But Carrie was involved in ASSISTments in so many different ways. She was an ASSISTments ambassador. She used it in her classroom. So she will be on the chat answering lots of questions for you. And she can bring any of those questions to my attention as well. And before we move on, I just want to also highlight that we have a couple members of the Kendall Hunt team with us today. Let's see, Marty is going to be on the chat. And then Gabby, do you want to quickly say hello to everyone?
Everyone, my name is Gabby and I am the K-12 marketing coordinator for Kendall Hunt.
All right, thanks. And Gabby's going to share some information about this, elementary curriculum with you a little bit later in the presentation. All right, so we're going to start with an overview of ASSISTments, and then we're going to dive into the 4 steps. So first of all, what is ASSISTments? ASSISTments is an evidence-based free math formative assessment tool. We integrate seamlessly into Google Classroom and Canvas. Again, for anyone who just came in, if you are not using Google Classroom or have access to Google Classroom or Canvas, unfortunately, you will not be able to use Assessments at this time. Assessment saves time, offering a library of content for you to assign to your students, including, of course, Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math. And Assessments fosters a growth mindset in students, offering them multiple opportunities to answer questions and giving them that immediate feedback. Why should you use Assessments? Students get regular and timely feedback as they complete their work, and then again from their teacher. Students get daily formative data to help inform instruction. Assessments allows you to quickly identify students that need additional support and intervention. And lastly, Assessments increases student engagement by keeping them informed on their progress as they're doing their work. No longer needing to wait until they turn in their worksheet the next day to find out how they performed. Assessments is a research-proven tool. Like I said, we have a Tier 1 rating by Evidence for ESSA. Just a note that we are only one of 3 middle school math interventions that has strong evidence from Evidence for ESSA. And we earned this rating based on the results of an Assessments randomized controlled study from the state of Maine that showed 75% more learning in classrooms that used Assessments compared to classrooms that did not use Assessments. And Assessments narrowed the achievement gap, which highlights that Assessments supports learning loss, which is a very top of mind topic for many teachers who are returning to the classroom after a very tough 2020. Assessments makes teaching easier. So over 20,000 teachers in the US used Assessments last year, and they gave us a little bit of feedback about why they love Assessments. First, there was no need to scour the internet looking for high quality practice problems. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes that we have, yes, the curriculum for Kendall Hunt, grade 1 all the way through high school, but we also have additional practice problems that you can choose from. The immediate data that Assessments provides helps teachers make instructional decisions in the moment when it's most effective for students. And the immediate feedback helps to avoid student frustration and allows students to focus, allows the teacher to focus attention on students who need it the most. So let's talk about the 4 steps of a typical teacher routine. So without Assessments, the teacher is generally going to assign some independent practice for their students. And then step 2, the student completes the assignment. Fingers crossed that they complete the assignment. Step 3, the teacher spends their time, whether it's in the classroom or at home on the couch, grading that student work. And step 4, the data informs the instructional moves that the teacher is going to make. So Assessments basically just enhances that 4-step teacher routine. Instead of just assigning a worksheet or something random on Google Classroom, the teacher can now assign online from the Assessments content library. And again, everything you're used to seeing, or if you've been exploring that new elementary curriculum from Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math, we have all of that content for you to assign. Step 2, as the students do their work, they're going to get immediate feedback as they complete their assignment, keeping them in the know of how they're performing. Step 3, instead of taking that personal time, that valuable personal time grading, the teacher is going to analyze the data report. And then step 4, to decide what moves they're going to make and what students are going to need additional intervention. So we're going to get started real simple, and I'm going to show you how to create an account with Google or Canvas. So before I actually demo it for you, which I absolutely will do each step of the way, I just wanted to talk about a few requirements for creating your account. If you're a G Suite or Google Classroom teacher, you do need to be authorized as a teacher in your school's G Suite. This is something that most schools do automatically, but if they haven't done that already, then we can manually verify you up to 24 hours by emailing us at contact@assistments.org. And I think Carrie's going to go ahead and put that in the chat. Contact@assistments.org. I'm going to reference many times throughout that presentation. It's the best way to get in touch with our support team. If you're a Canvas teacher, there is a little bit of prep work that your Canvas administrator needs to do to get you set up and ready to assign. So if you are using Canvas, I highly recommend that you take the link that Carrie is going to put in the chat, email it to your Canvas administrator. They just need to set up some scopes and give some approvals so that you will be able to assign with ASSISTments. An additional note, you do need to have an institutional Canvas account versus a free individual teacher account in order to use the ASSISTments and Canvas integration. All right, so I am going to pop over here to the ASSISTments website, assistments.org, and I'm going to show you how to do that login with both Google Classroom and Canvas. And you're welcome to do this right along with me if you haven't set up your account. So I'm going to click on Sign Up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And now I'm prompted to choose Google or Canvas. So first I'm going to start with Google. You will be prompted to log in with your Google credentials. This is a mouthful here. And it is important to note that you should be logging in with the Google account that's associated with your Google Classroom. The very first time you log in or create your account, you will be prompted to create an account. You just press a little button that says create account, and then you'll be asked to authorize the connection. And once you do that, you are in. You'll see your name appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You'll see all the content that we have to assign and these tabs over here on the left. I will note again that if you are trying to go through that process and you're not approved to assign, just email us at contact@assistments.org. I'm going to go through that same process again for Canvas users. It looks a little bit different, so I want to make sure they're supported as well. So again, when we start at the ASSISTments website, we'll click on Sign Up. That'll bring us to this page, and now I'll choose Canvas. If your Canvas administrator has not set up the integration, you won't be able to go any further at this time. But if they have, you're going to either search or type in your institution's Canvas ID and click Login. One note for the Canvas users, the instructions that Carrie is sharing is right down here as well. So another great place to grab that and forward that to your Canvas administrator. All right, you'll be prompted to log in with your Canvas account. You're not creating new accounts here. You're just logging in with your existing credentials. And same with the students, which I'll show you in just a bit. Canvas users are going to be asked to authorize every time they log in and every time they assign. That is a security function that we could not get around for Canvas. And once again, you'll see your name appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll have access to all the content and the bar on the left. All right, so just to recap that, and you'll have access to this slide deck when we send it to you in the morning, you'll go to www.assistments.org and click Login or Sign Up, choose your LMS, log in with your existing Google or Canvas credentials, and authorize your connection. All right, any questions coming up real quick that I can help to clarify or answer? I'm trying to keep an eye. Doesn't look like there's something I'm going to get to a little bit. And Carrie, I don't know if I dare to ask you to unmute since your audio is doing so poorly. So I'm going to move on, but give me some kind of notification in the chat if there's something I should cover. All right, so step one is creating the assignment in ASSISTments. So we're going to follow the track of James Wilson, who is a 5th grade math teacher who uses Illustrative Math for his math curriculum. He's using ASSISTments for the first time. So we're going to start and see what he needs to consider to get started with ASSISTments. And we're going to follow his path as we work through tonight's session. So first, he needs to find the content he wants to assign from the content library. So of course, we have the IM elementary content. Just a note here that we have not built out the kindergarten content. We started with grade 1 since we feel like the students who are in kindergarten would need a lot of additional support to use our platform. So again, we do have grade 1 through grade 5. We also have grade 6 all the way through high school if you have some friends using ASSISTments in middle or high. All of the work that we have in ASSISTments for you to assign Students are going to get immediate feedback as they work, and the teacher is going to get that class and student level data report. For each of the lessons, when available, you can assign the student tasks, including the warm-ups, practice problem sets, and cool downs. And we do have the unit assessments as well. The unit assessments are under a bit of lock and key right now. So if you do want access to those, please email us at contact@assistments.org, and we will shoot you a link that has all that material in it. Just a note for those assessments, most of the work that we have in assessments, most of the problem sets are designed to be given formatively to students. When I say formative, I mean they're getting that immediate feedback, they're getting support as they go. We do have something called test mode, which I'll show you in just a minute. If you're looking for a more summative experience for the assessments, for the end of units, end of module assessments, we do have test mode. Test mode is still able to be delivered through Google Classroom or Canvas. The student is not going to get immediate feedback, and they will not have access to request the answer if they need it. The teacher is still going to get that class and student level data report. So I just wanted to note that, because assessments, most people will probably want to deliver those in a more summative mode. All right, so I'm going to pull Gabby in right now, and she's going to talk about some typical IM lessons and a little bit of context around the new elementary Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math curriculum.
Hello, everyone. So what makes the IM curriculum so unique is that it was really written and designed with an invitation to mathematics in mind, which we will actually see throughout the curriculum and also throughout these different portions of the curriculum, which we've highlighted. And if you have any questions regarding any of these topics, go ahead and put them into the chat. And Marty, who also works with us at Kendall Hunt, will be more than happy to address them and to give you some guidance. So starting with warm-ups, warm-ups serve as an invitation for you as the educator to observe your students and kind of see, you know, what their thought process is like, how they go about and look at a problem, as well as you kind of get an insight into the methodologies that they use. And this will also give you a quick idea as to what to expect throughout the rest of the lesson. For student tasks, these are designed to have a low barrier to entry, and these really allow every student the ability to find a starting point, whether or not they have unfinished learning from the prior grade, which is especially important given everything that happened last year. This is also a place where students are introduced to new concepts and language. And it's also a place where you can identify and resolve common mistakes and misconceptions. And again, this all ties into that invitation to mathematics, and it also invites you as the educator to kind of pinpoint problem areas or kind of really get an insight as to what your students are thinking and where they're at. If we move on to the next slide. Cool downs, this is another invitation for educators. These are given at the end of a lesson and serve as a check-in to determine whether your students understand the main concept. They are brief, and again, they provide you that quick data. A neat thing about the practice problems is that within the IM curriculum, IM has penned these explorations that are featured within practice problems. And these are problem-solving questions or exercises that are presented to your students in a fun or creative manner to kind of get away from that monotony. And that also includes the questions aligned to the lesson and additional review. And a lot of teachers like to assign these for homework or in class practice, but don't typically spend a lot of time just because this is one of many check-ins that you have as an educator throughout the curriculum. And finally, assessments. They allow you to really watch your students grow to monitor their progress and potential throughout each section unit. And these are provided through section checkpoints, end of unit assessments, and end of course assessments. And finally, onto the next slide. So the IM curriculum is uniquely focused on the conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, the progressions, those formative assessments. And the cool part is that they do embed teacher learning. So not only are you learning as to how your students go about looking at different math concepts, but you yourself are going to be able to grow along with them. And maybe you see your students approach a problem in a way that you never thought to approach. So that part is pretty cool. And in addition to these 4 points listed, IM also weaves a cultural responsiveness throughout the curriculum, which is very unique and different compared to the other mathematics curriculums that are out there. And one last point to kind of highlight the embedded teacher learning that happens within IM. Kendall Hunt has a space for educators to network, share ideas, and ask questions through our IM community, which is a Facebook group, which I will share the link to in the chat. But between ASSISTments, Illustrative Mathematics, and Kendall Hunt, we have many resources for you. So if you ever have any questions that perhaps don't come up here, but come up later as you're going through the different lessons and units, feel free to ask them within our community or to reach out to us, and we will be more than happy to answer them.
All right, thanks, Gabby. And any questions that come up regarding the new curriculum, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and Gabby and Marty can help you out with those. All right, so in addition to the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math curriculum that you are used to exploring, I'm so tempted to say used to using, but this is brand new this year. We have some in-house built content and some release date tests. So if you are looking for additional content to assign for skills practice, for mastery, there's other places that you can explore to look for additional content. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go live now and actually walk you through the assigning process. So let me just go ahead and get out of this window. All right, so here I am at the ASSISTments website. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time to explore in a few moments as well. So there's two ways that you can find content in ASSISTments. One is by browsing by content, clicking right into the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Mathematics folder, right into the grade level you're used to, right into that unit. We've sorted it out by sections, and then you'll see the lessons that you're looking for the content for. Within each lesson, as available, you'll see student-facing tasks, all the problems there, and then in addition, you'll see the cool downs. I'm going to talk more about assigning in just a moment. But before I do, you also have the option to search by standard. So if there is a particular standard that you're looking to assess and give practice for, you can start typing in a code or just a description, choose that skill, and you'll get a list of all of the problems across contents in our content library that you can search through. You can also filter by the Kendall Hunt grade 1 through 5 curriculum to find all the problems, again, across all different types of problem sets that align to that skill. So let me just come back here for a second. So again, there's two ways to navigate the curriculum, because somebody posted in the chat and said, what does this have to do with Kendall Hunt? Here it is, guys. So you can navigate the folders by searching by content, going right into Kendall Hunt IM and searching through the problems that you're used to seeing on the website or the printed materials, and then searching by standard. So again, searching by standard is going to find all problems across curricula of the ASSISTments in-house built content, and then you can filter by specifically illustrative math content. So right now, we're going to give you a little 3-minute break, and I'd like everyone to go to the ASSISTments website and just have a little bit of time to explore. So go ahead and find the grade level that you're going to be starting the school year with, the unit, share any questions, noticings, or wonderings that you have in the chat. And after this 3-minute section, then we're going to go on to showing you how to actually assign. So I'm going to put myself on mute and start my timer. And hopefully we see some questions in the chat. Just a note again that if you are looking for those assessments, they're under lock and key. So you just need to email us at contact@assistments.org if you're looking for any of those assessments to pre-assess your students or the checkpoints. All right, about 30 more minutes or so to explore. If you have any questions, wonderings, let me know. All right, so we are going to move on, but if anything does come up, please don't hesitate to send those questions in the chat. So James teaches with Illustrative Math, just like you all, so it makes the most sense for him to enhance his IM lesson materials with assessments. Now he needs to know how to assign. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that assigning process looks like, both in Google Classroom and Canvas. So I'm going to start with just a regular old problem set. So I'm going to go, let's see, to grade 2, unit 7, section A, and right into the practice problems. So at this point, I can select all the problems that exist in this problem set, or just make a selection. So I'm going to choose question 1. You can see there's some multiple select in there, question 2, and question 3. And I'll go ahead and I have the option to assign to class right away or save to my problem sets. So right now I'm going to assign to class and show you what that looks like. Once we choose to assign, we have the option to change the assignment name. So I'm going to change this to something I can remember. So let's see, today is the 18th. We're going to select our LMS, which first I'm going to do Google Classroom. The very first time that you use assessments, you're going to import the classes that already exist. So I'm going to choose import. We'll select any additional classes or the classes from your LMS that you want to import, and you'll import those. And synchronizing is actually going to refresh the roster. So if you have students who exit your class after the first few weeks or new students that arrive in your class, synchronize is going to sync the roster and the connection between Google Classroom and your LMS. This goes for Canvas and for Google Classroom. You have the option to set something in test mode, like I said. Just as a note, if you do want test mode enabled, you're going to go to your settings. I'll show you that in a minute once I assign, but I'll show, You have the option to choose problem order. So the problem order, if you choose linear, will deliver the problems in the exact order that you chose them in the problem set. Random order will assign all problems that you chose just in a random order for students. And then student choice is going to resemble more of a state testing format where students can view all the problems and pick and choose the order that they want to complete them. And they will still be completing all the problems that you assigned. I'm going to choose linear. You have the option to set a release or due date as well. All right, so let me choose my class. Just a note, you can assign to multiple classes at a time. So once I assign, I'm going to get a message that this was successfully created. In my Google Classroom, you'll notice that that assignment shows up in the stream once this refreshes, and also in the classwork tab. There we go, demo 818 problem set. Before I forget, I do want to show you where that toggle is to turn on test mode. So if you go to your account and choose settings, right over here under feature settings, you'll enable test mode so that way you can assign in this summative mode. All right, I just want to show the same thing for Canvas. So if you are a Canvas user, let's say you want to curate your own problem set. So maybe I'll search that same skill I searched before on bar graphs. I choose some problems. And if I don't want to assign right now, but maybe I'm just doing a little bit of prep for the beginning of the school year or planning ahead, which some teachers do and some do not. I was not a plan aheader. When I click on this arrow next to assign to class, I can save to problem sets. This is going to allow me to save this problem set. First week of school assignment. And create and save. And then you'll have the option to add additional problems to that or assign at a later time. When you save to my problem sets, it will show up over here in my problems. And for Canvas, everything else about assigning is going to be exactly the same. All right, so let me pop back over here. So again, to actually assign to your students, you're going to start at assessments, click on explore content or just log in. You have the option to browse content or search by standard. You can save to my problem sets and curate your own problem sets to assign to students now or at a later time. And then your assign time options are going to be choosing the assignment name, choosing your LMS. Again, important to import and then sync your classes when you first get started. You can go to your settings to turn on test mode and choose that for each individual assignment. You can select the problem order and then a release or due date. All right, so we're going to have another 3-minute pause right here where I'm just going to give you an opportunity to play around and assign if you want to. So if you're logged in, you will be able to save to my problem sets. You'll be able to actually assign to one of the classes that you've set up that you can delete at a later time. But for everyone else who doesn't have their account, you can just go ahead and play around and see what the different features are. So right now, since we're running a little bit behind, I'm just going to set us about 2 minutes for this right here. And I'll also pause next to answer any questions that are coming in. And Carrie, I wonder if you can share again in the chat our sample teacher login for Google. That way anyone who hasn't set up their account can play around a little bit. Thanks, Carrie. Do another 40 seconds or so. Please feel free to post any questions or wonderings that you have as you just play around with assessments. All right, thanks everyone. And no questions coming in. Actually, there's one question that I wonder if someone from the Kendall Hunt team might answer. And it's about, let me see here. Will there eventually be tasks in Khan Academy like 6th through 8th has?
I was getting ready to answer that one. Thank you. We do not partner with Khan Academy, so they really neither does Illustrative Math. So Khan Academy does that on their own. That would be a great request to send over to Khan Academy.
All right, thanks, Marty. All right, and no other questions are coming in, so I'm just going to continue right along. All right, now that we've overviewed the process of assigning, we'll show you the student experience of getting immediate feedback as students complete questions in assessments. And this may be you. James wants to know what his students' experience will look like in assessments so that he can best support positive student culture around the platform. And I think this is especially important for our younger students who are using a brand new platform, brand new technology, and using a new curriculum. So Carrie is going to share a link in the chat, and I'm going to give you a few minutes here to test drive or student view this problem set. So this is an opportunity. If you're not logged in yet, you're going to want to log in with the sample student account, which if you scroll back in the comments, you'll see that Carrie posted that a minute ago. So you'll click the link that Carrie shared. You'll see 818 new user part 1 demo set. And again, as long as you're logged into an account, you'll see a triple dot right here to the right of the checkbox where you can view problem set as a student. So here is your assignment. I'd like you to go through this problem set as a student or with a student's perspective in mind. Complete, get it right, get it wrong, and share any questions that you have. And if you don't have access to this right now, I am going to be demoing this problem set, so you'll get to see what it looks like all the way through. But this gives you an opportunity for 2 or 3 minutes just to test it out on your own. So I'm going to start my timer now, everyone. Just a note, once you're logged in and you see that triple dot, this is the way you can always experience any problem set before you actually assign to students or save it to my problem sets. It's a great way to preview and anticipate student misunderstandings. All right, about 30 more seconds if you haven't finished up yet. We'd love to hear some feedback or questions in the chat. All right, so I hope you had a chance to play around with that a little bit. So now we're going to move on, and I'm actually going to demo that student experience for you. So I'm going to start with a Canvas student first, just to show you how to access that assignment. So students are actually going to go right through their LMS to access these ASSISTments assignments. They're going to log in with their existing credentials. They don't have to create brand new accounts or anything, making it nice and easy. So the student is going to click right on an assignment. And within that assignment, there's going to be a link for the ASSISTments assignment. When they click on that link, they will be prompted initially to log in with their Canvas credentials and then authorize. Like I said, no need to worry. You're going to see that, that authorization many times as you're using our integration, and they're going to be brought into the student view. Just to show that same process in Google, the student in Google is going to log into their existing Google Classroom. They're going to see that assignment show up both in the stream. Here's my demo 818 problem set, and also in the classwork tab. So when the student clicks from their Google account, they're going to be brought again into the assignment, and initially they will be prompted to log in with their credentials and create new account. No need to worry when students press create new account. They will not be asked for additional information or anything like that. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking in the background, everyone. So I'm going to walk through a couple different scenarios and play the student. So for this first problem that you experienced, I'm going to answer this correctly. So you can see that students get that immediate feedback as they work. For this next problem, maybe I don't get it right on the very first try, but the student is given that message that is not correct, and now they can try again. For the next one, maybe that student is struggling a little bit and they don't know what the answer is. They do have unlimited opportunities to answer correctly. So even if they get it right on the third, fourth, fifth try, they still are going to get that feedback if they get it correct eventually, which is promoting perseverance with our students. For this one right here, maybe you have a student like I did who liked to see how many digits you could fit into that box, and they're just not going to get it correct ever. Maybe they need a little bit of support. Maybe they missed the lesson. So that's what our show answer button is for over here on the right. The show answer button is going to give the student the opportunity to be handed the answer, which they can type in, allowing them to move on. But I will assure you that on the report, teachers are going to see who had to press that button. And in addition, even the details of how long it took them before they had to press the show answer button, allowing you to see if the student was just messing around or whether they truly need support. All right, and I'm back on track here, so I'm going to type in this next answer. And this one too, magically, because I got my feedback, I can answer those correctly. The last type of problem I want to highlight, and this shows up a lot in the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math curriculum, is showing your thinking, showing your work. So students, when they're addressed or when they arrive to an open response question, they can type in their response. They can upload a picture of their work. If they drew a diagram, if they did their work on paper, they can upload that in. And we do have some supports to help younger students out with that. They also have the option to make a table if you're working with the upper elementary grades, or even use our math editor, which allows students to write fractions and different kind of math symbols. Because this is an open response question, students are not getting immediate feedback, but the teacher will have the option to go in and leave feedback and score if they desire. Student is always going to see a student report, which allows them to review the questions that they were assigned, see what their score is, compared to the class score. And since we're dealing with teachers of the younger kids here, we have had teachers request that this column, this comparison column, be something that can be turned off. So our product team is already aware of that. All right, so just to recap that about the student experience, students are going to go right to their Google Classroom or Canvas account, click on the assessments link. They'll be prompted to log in and then create a new account. They will not be supplying any additional information at that time. They're going to see one question at a time and get immediate feedback as they work. The feedback is corrective, so they'll be told they're correct. They'll be told, sorry, try again, and they can persevere and try as many times as they want, or they can press the show answer button, which will allow them to move on if they're stuck. I wanted to give you a little taste of what student choice looks like. So if you do choose student choice, again, this is going to allow students to pick and choose with the order that they complete the problems. So they can choose to start this problem. They do need to finish it before they can move on, but they will have access to look at all the problems before getting started. And when the students complete, they'll see a student report where they can review the problems. If you want them to do corrections or just review as a class or in small groups, they'll see how they performed, and then they'll see their class average. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a minute. And next we're going to be moving on to the data reports. So I'm not seeing any questions come in. Carrie, anything coming in that's coming into you privately?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Either.
Awesome. So we will continue on, but please stop me if there's anything you need to see again or have a question on. So step 3, we're talking about analyzing data. So back to James. Now that James understands the student experience, he'll need to learn how to interpret the resulting data he will receive on the assignment report. So again, I'm going to toggle over. I'm going to show you this live, and then we'll come back and take a look at the slide deck just for a recap. So there's 2 ways for you to access ASSISTments data. First is by going to My Assignments right over here on the left. You can filter by class. You can filter by assignment status and filter and sort by release and due date. Once you find the assignment you want to access data for, you're going to click on View Report. You'll also get to see at a high level number of students who completed the assignment, how many problems were assigned, release date, due date, and any relevant standards. The other place that you can access your class data is right through Google Classroom or Canvas. So if I click on the assignment, and as a teacher, if I click on this link, I'm going to be brought to the data. So just a note, when the student clicks on this, I rest assure you, they will be brought to the assignment. When the teacher clicks on that link, they're brought to the data report. Same thing in Canvas. I'm not forgetting the Canvas folks in the house. So when the teacher clicks on that assignment in Canvas, the student was brought right into the assignment. The teacher will be brought into the data report. And this happens to be an empty one right here. All right, so let's dive into this data here. So I'm going to view report. So at a high level, we get to see the name of the assignment. We get to see how many students started the assignment, did not start the assignment, how many were in progress and when they last worked on it, how many students completed the assignment and when they completed it. And this gives us our total students assigned. The performance summary is going to give you an overview by question on the number of students who got the problem right the first time, got it right eventually, and then this red or pinkish color right here, these are the students who had to request the answer. So again, I told you it's going to be very obvious who had to press show answer. So that makes up this bar right here. If we want to look at what each individual question was, so we can review as a class or just analyze with our teacher hat on, when we click on that, that problem right here over on the right-hand side, I can look at the student view of that question, any accepted correct answers, and then another breakdown of the student performance. And we can toggle in between questions right over here. Moving down on the report, these are our student details. So I get to see the average score for the entire assignment. Each one of these columns represents a different question and the problem average. If there was any common wrong answers, which tells us common misconceptions the students gave, those will be highlighted here in this row, and we'll talk more about common wrong answers in the Part 2 webinar. And then each row represents a different student. All of these different symbols correspond to the colors above. So correct, correct eventually, and incorrect. And then the additional symbols, if I click on scoring here, this tells me whether they had to access hints, if hints were available for that problem, or how many attempts it took them to arrive at the correct answer. So again, that scoring guide is right over here as you get used to it. You have the ability to hide columns. So if you want to hide or unhide student names, if you're sharing data, you can do that right here. You have access to the total amount of time spent. If you want to hide that, you can go to hide columns. And one other thing before I move on to the other report that we have is the student details report. So if you're looking for a little bit more detail for an individual student, sorry, let me get these student names back. If I'm looking for a little bit more insight on this student here, when I click on the name, that brings me to a student details report, which gives you a literal play-by-play for that student, what each individual attempt was, when they asked for an answer, and you can kind of scroll through and see how students performed. And then you can also toggle between students up here at the top. All right, and the one other piece of the report that I want to highlight right now is the standards report. So for each assignment, we can look at the problem report, which I just showed you, or the standards report, which for each individual student is going to give you their score for the whole problem. And then in addition, how they scored on each standard that was tagged in that problem set. So there was 2 problems in the problem set that correspond to this standard, 4 that correspond to this standard, and 1 for this 6th grade standard. All right, so just coming back and recapping, and I just want to say again, I know that's a lot of information, and the second part of this 2-part webinar really does dive into the data and talks about how to use it in your classroom, so that's highly recommended. So 2 ways to get your data. One is directly through your LMS by clicking on the ASSISTments link. And the second way is to go to My Assignments in your ASSISTments account. You can filter and sort however you want, and then click on View Report. Some highlights: the student progress cards tell you the students who are in progress, completed, or not started. Performance summary gives you an overview of what problems you might want to cover and review in class. And then the details gives you individual student details. Let's zoom into that for a minute. On the detailed report, we can see the average score for the entire assignment, the class score by individual problem, if there was any common wrong answers, and the percentage is the percent of incorrect answers that gave that response, and then individual student responses. And then all of these colors and symbols tell you details on the number of attempts. And then the standards report is going to give you the standards that were aligned to the problem set, the number of problems aligned to that standard, and the student's average score across problems aligned with that standard. All right, so moving on, I am going to give you a little time to dive into the data, but James notices that ASSISTments assignment report contains a plethora of detailed actionable data. So he needs to know where he should focus his time and where he should start. So just a couple recommendations is the class average. When you look at the report and zone in on that class average, let me just come back here to show you, right down here, that average score, that's going to quickly assess whole class understanding on the assignment. If you look at the problem average, which is going to be at the top of each column, that identifies which individual students need whole class review. Excuse me, which individual problems are going to need whole class review, making homework review so much more efficient. For common wrong answers, if there's common wrong answers for a particular problem, those can help you facilitate whole class discussions about common misconceptions. And something I like to do in my classroom, I know Carrie did as well, is my favorite no activities. So highlighting that incorrect answer and having students discuss. And lastly, individual student scores by problem or standard help you to identify the students who need small group review or reteaching. All right, so I'm going to give you about 3 minutes now. Carrie is going to share a PDF of a report in the chat. And I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to soak in everything that I showed you and have an opportunity to ask questions, see if you need to see something one more time. And then we're going to move on and think about how you can get started with assessments and IM in your classroom. So I'll start the timer now. Happy to clarify any questions you have or noticings or wonderings as you explore this report. We'll do about 30 more seconds. All right, great. And just another plug, I'll be doing it again before the end of the session, but next week, same time, same place, we're going to be really diving into the data and giving recommendations on how it can be used in your classroom. And Carrie just sent that registration in the chat. Thanks, Carrie. All right, so a lot of information today. We're at the 1 hour mark, so we're going to start wrapping up and thinking about how to implement this right in your classroom. So one suggestion of how to incorporate assessments along with your IM lesson, a nice easy entry point, is to assign warm-ups to assessments to provide an opportunity for quick data. Whether that's an open response type question or a short answer where students are getting feedback, it's a great way for you to learn what kind of mindsets your students in and get them warmed up and thinking mathematically as soon as they come into your classroom. Another suggestion is to assign the student tasks through assessments to allow you to monitor students' progress through an activity and address common misconceptions in real time. So if you're putting students in small groups or having them work independently on student tasks, as long as you have them enter those answers into assessments, you're going to be able to update that assignment throughout the class, updating live, and see what students or what small groups are in need of a little bit of additional support. One teacher, I'm going to show you this video in just a minute, but one teacher has shared this video of how she uses assessments in class collaboratively with her students. So she has her students do the work, they answer and discuss and then enter their answers in assessments, allowing them to get that feedback that they would normally need to get from the teacher, freeing the teacher up to really spend time with the students who need relearning, reteaching, or additional support. So let me go ahead and play this short video so you can see how this works in one teacher's classroom.
When are bought 4 liters of orange juice, how many milliliters of orange juice does he have? I think wait, you can get Lily. Okay. Well, I think when she was teaching us, she said that in milliliters, it's 100 less than the liters. No. Wait, no, hold on a second. I think it's 1,000. Me too. So that means it's 1,000 and not 400. What isn't it 100 for centiliters? I think it's for milliliters. No, for centiliters, I'm pretty sure it's 100. For milliliters, it was 1,000. Yeah, you can put in 400 and we can put in 4,000. Yeah, I think it's 100, so we can just do it 400. Yes. Okay. Oh, 4,000 is right. Yeah, I got 4,000. Maybe y'all are correct.
All right, couple things I love about that video. I love that one of the students looks right at the teacher saying, "Are you going to solve this for us?" And she just lets them go and lets them figure it out through discussion. And also, this is a great example of a teacher who used assessments virtually throughout the pandemic and then brought it back into the classroom to make sure that her students were still getting that really valuable feedback and she was getting that really valuable data to drive her in-class instruction. All right, a couple more suggestions is finish lessons by assigning a cool down when available to assess whole class or individual student understanding. Use this data to highlight reteaching opportunities for your students. And lastly, some of you may not be assigning homework if you're dealing with the real little kids, but leverage any problems you didn't assign in class as homework, getting your data before the next class. And just a reminder, we have all the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math starting at grade 1, and then you can also search by standard if you're looking for a standard specific problem set to assign. All right, so I'm going to launch a quick poll, and I'd love to just hear from people. Hold on one second. What you think your entry point might be. So we'll give about 60 seconds or so, and I'd love if you could participate in the poll. We have a smaller group today. So where do you think you're going to get started if you had to choose one? All right, we'll do about 30 more seconds. Thank you, everyone, for participating. All right. I think we got everyone here. So let me go ahead and share those results so you can see. So it looks like a little bit less than half the group is thinking warm-ups, a little bit less than half the group is thinking about student tasks, and then in-class and homework. So awesome. All you have to do is choose one entry point. Don't get overwhelmed with having to assign everything online. Find one place that you're going to get in. And just a note that the warm-ups are located right in the student tasks folder. So I think it's generally the first problem that you're going to see in the student tasks. All right, so just some tips for introducing assessments to students. Again, since we're dealing with the younger group of kids here, we want to make sure that you have an understanding of the platform and also you have a way that you can set up students for success. James, of course, I was talking a little bit more generally. So our first tip for setting students up for success using assessments is to share the student tutorial video. Just a reminder that all the links we have here in the slide deck will get emailed out to everyone who registered for the webinar, so you'll have access to these. But our student tutorials basically are going to show the student how to get into their LMS, how to access the assignment, what kind of feedback they're going to get, what kind of options they have for open response questions. So it's a great thing to assign even before you start using assessments in your classroom. Tip 2. Make the first assignments low stakes so that students can get used to the platform, get used to the system before you assign your regular daily work to your students. So we have actually created these student practice assignments. Just to give you a little taste, these are right in our content library. It's basically asks some real low level questions, telling students the answer even, showing them what kind of feedback they're going to get if they get it right, if they get it wrong, or what happens if they press show answer. Tip 3 is model a clear protocol for open response questions. So students, especially in the classroom, are used to doing their work on paper. So some of our teachers recommend using a drawing tool on their computer if they're using Chromebooks, drawing their work on paper, taking a picture and uploading it depending on their capacity and what grade level you're supporting. We have created a specific open response student tutorial that you can shoot to help troubleshoot students who are having issues getting their pictures in using the different functions of the open response question. And then last tip is reward multiple attempts. The score generated assessments is not intended to be used as a grade in the grade book as it is formative. So we have different teachers using different models for scoring. Maybe you'll give full credit if a student gets 100, partial credit if they get it right eventually, or no credit if they had to request the answer. And actually, Carrie, who is on the chat, has created in our teacher corner a great scale that you could use in your classroom to kind of assign a grade to students' effort for this work. All right, so we are rounding out the last 5 minutes, so let's do a wrap up. So what did we talk about today? We talked about how to create an account. We overviewed the content that we have in assessments aligned to Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math and showed you how to create an assignment. You got to experience the student experience, and we walked through what that looks like. Step 3, we got just a little taste of assessing class performance through our data reports. And then we talked about some tips for your entry point and getting started with assessments. Carrie is going to put a link in the chat. We'd love your feedback for tonight's session. We are free. We are a forever free tool. So the feedback that we get really helps us to grow our program offerings and modify what we have. So it is an Airtable link. That is the link for our webinar. So don't be alarmed if you see that. So thank you so much for taking the time to complete. I've referenced this a couple times. A new user webinar part 2, deep dive on data, is going to be next week, Wednesday, the 25th from 5 to 6:15. Again, this is going to be geared directly towards our elementary group of IM teachers. So we'll walk through some different scenarios about how you can use the data produced by assessments in your own class. If you can attend, we will be posting this webinar in addition to next week's webinar in our webinar library, or you can register and you will get the follow-up email as well. In addition to that, we do have some other assessments programming coming up that you might be interested in. An overview of our fresh new features if you're interested about mixing and matching from different problem sets or searching by standard or anything like that. We have that coming up in a few weeks. Common implementation challenges and our solutions. If you want to learn more about skill builders, which are in-house built skills mastery-based practice. Whew, that was a mouthful. That's just a 30-minute session, and then very timely for teachers using assessments to address unfinished learning. That's going to be later in October. And just to give you a quick tour of the assessments website so you can find what you need once you get there and find what kind of tools we have. If you go to our help center, you'll find our user resources, FAQs. This is where you can find our webinar library to view any previously recorded webinars, and then our webinar sign up if you're looking to register for future sessions. And the Teacher Corner. This is one of my favorite places here. We have teacher artifacts. So you'll find lots of different artifacts created by teachers. Some are printable things that you can use in your classroom to encourage students to show their work. Some of these are videos showing teachers talking about data with their students. So this is a great place to go. And I'll actually highlight, because I mentioned it, right down here, Carrie Moy has her scoring rubric if you're looking how to translate the assessment score to a grade. You can also follow us in our Facebook user community, where you can post questions, learn ideas, share ideas with other teachers using assessments across different curriculas. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, or LinkedIn. And like I've said a few times already, contact@assessments.org is the best place to go if you run into any issues, need any support using assessments. Also, if your school requests a privacy agreement or anything like that, contact@assessments.org is where you should go. All right, so finishing us out in the last 2 minutes, I'd love to hear, based on what you learned today, what is your priority next step as we close out and you think about using assessments with Kendall Hunt in your classroom? What is your next step? And I know Carrie's audio is not working, so I'm looking at that chat to see if there's anything I can share out. Setting up digital warm-ups, great idea. And again, you can set those up just by saving to my problem sets, making it super easy to assign when you're ready. Someone's asking, is there a cost to assessments? Assessments is a forever free tool. So teachers and students will never have any costs attached to using assessments. We are heavily grant funded for the research that we do, which I highlighted at the beginning. All right, thanks for those who participated in the chat. And I'll add one more suggestion for a next step is to go through that Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math materials on their website and then take a look at what we have in the content library so you can start planning out the first few weeks of your school year. All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I know it's late for some of us who are maybe on the East Coast, and an hour and 15 minutes is a long time to sit with anyone. So I appreciate you joining us and sticking with us. You will get a recording and slide deck tomorrow in your email, so you can expect that and you can share that with your colleagues. And again, thanks for joining us. Any questions that come up, please direct to contact@assessments.org. And I look forward to seeing everyone next week at our New User Part 2. Bye, everyone.